All right, what's going on, my people? I am honored to be here with attorney Amir Makled, Dearborn-based attorney specializing in civil rights and personal injury. Thank you for being on the show, man.
Thank you, Ibrahim, for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity. And you've been somebody I've been following on social media for a long time, and your brother as well. And I look up to you guys and the space that you've created and the mentorship that you've given to other attorneys nationally. So I'm really proud of what the work you guys are doing as well.
Thank you, bro. So I like to start it off by asking this question. For those people that don't know you, what would be something that you want people to know about you?
Well, first and foremost, I'm a father first, I'm a husband, I'm an attorney, and I'm a Muslim. And these are important traits for me in that order. And it's the experience that I'm having now as a practicing attorney, as a Muslim American lawyer. And I'm going through serving my community, and I'm lucky and blessed to serve in Dearborn, which is a predominantly Arab and Muslim community, and my clientele base is either Arab Muslim or marginalized population, and I have the honor of serving them, and I love it. It's really nice to do. I enjoy it every moment of it.
When did you become an attorney?
2012.
Wow, same exact year I became an attorney.
Yeah.
2012. Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. So, and from what I understood, you opened up or you partnered up with an attorney right off the bat?
So right out of law school, I was working for an attorney named Cyril Hall, and a couple years into my practice, Cyril made me his partner. Cyril is a black attorney who's a veteran criminal defense and civil rights lawyer in Detroit area. He opened a satellite office in Dearborn around the same time that I went into law school.
I see.
And Dearborn is a kind of an interesting town. It's a city of about 100 and so thousand people, and I'd say 70% or more are Arab and Muslim. And for a black attorney to come into this city and get any sort of market share, it was very difficult, but Cyril was able to do it. And with my help, we expanded into this market. And so as a result of that, he made me his partner. And in return, I got the mentorship from a trial lawyer, and a very good one and reputable one. And my relationship with him has become like a father-son type mentor-mentee. And so I'm very indebted to him, and I respect the hell out of him. And he's more than just a business partner.
That's awesome.
So, thank you.
Yeah. So civil rights initially, and then delved into the injury law space. And recently, you had a little snafu with CBP. And it was in the news. It was on the Washington Post. So tell us a little bit about that. What happened, man?
So I took the wife and kids to Dominican for spring break. We did a 5-day vacation. And when I was coming back into Detroit, and thankfully I didn't have a connection flight into Atlanta, which often happens with Delta, which I would have called you had anything happened, because I know you're there.
For real.
But I was flying back into Detroit. I get to the Customs and Border Patrol desk, and I give the passport agent my passport. At that point, they ask the normal routine questions. Are you bringing anything with you? Do you have alcohol with you? Do you have tobacco with you? Do you have groceries or food? No. Didn't bring any of that stuff. Then he looked at another agent that was stationed at a spot next to him and asked if the TTRT agents were here. And I didn't know what that meant, TTRT agents. So I Googled it right on the spot. And sure enough, it's Tactical Terrorism Response Team. TTRT. And that's when I felt I'm being racially profiled. I've never been stopped at the airport, ever. I've traveled outside of the country probably 20 times or more in my life. And I routinely go to Lebanon and come back every year or every other year. And nobody's ever bothered me, or my family for that matter. So to be stopped for a TTRT, a terrorism task force team, I was nervous. I was really nervous because I didn't know what was going on. And so were my wife and kids. They were kind of very, off-put by this. So they ushered my family into this enclosed room that had a long counter with 2 rows of desks, of chairs in front of this long counter. And they sat the whole family down as a unit together. And then an agent came out and said, "Mr. Makled?" I said, "Yes. We'd like to talk to you." I said, "Well, can my wife and kids go? Do they need to be here?" And they let them go. So that was important, that at least I felt a little bit better. So at that moment, it's just me and this agent. And I don't have a problem dealing with law enforcement. I do it for a living. I'm always engaging with cops. and federal agents, but never as the target, which is a little unnerving. So they take me to a smaller interview room, and they lead off with, "We know that you're an attorney,
Okay.
and we know that you're doing some high-profile cases right now." And I am doing one high-profile case, and that's the case of Samantha Lewis, who is a University of Michigan protester. She was at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor over May of last year protesting the war in Gaza. Very loud and active activist, Samantha is. And her and six others, or seven in total, have been charged with felonies for resisting and opposing police officers for the peaceful protests that they were engaged in. So criminalization of free speech, full stop. That's what's going on in Ann Arbor right now. And we've been making a lot of noise about it. So when this agent brought it up to me and led with it, I was like, okay, I've been put on one of those lists, maybe a canary list or something, or BTAR, whatever these new groups that are out that are targeting students and lawyers even, or anybody that for that matter, that's speaking out against the war in Gaza. So he engaged me a little bit more and asked if I had my phone. I said yes. He handed me a pamphlet, and the pamphlet had a federal statute on it, which I was familiar with. And it basically gave me the rights that on the border, the government is allowed to seize my electronic devices. No warrant, no probable cause, no reasonable suspicion, just because, and they can do it. And he said it in no uncertain terms. "We want your phone." And I said, "No, you already know that I'm a lawyer, and I'm not giving you my phone. And everything that's in my phone is privileged, because I have 10 plus years of communication with clients, files, everything is on my cloud, and emails. It's all accessible. You're not getting it." He was pushing back some on that issue, because at that point he started telling me, "Look, everything can't be privileged on your phone. All your photos can be privileged." I said, "Well, listen, man, I'm not going to go through that exercise, but yeah, everything is privileged." So he leaves the room and goes and seeks a supervisor. And come to find out now that this happened to me, that was CBP policy, that if somebody claims a privilege, they have to go up per their policy and speak to a supervisor.
Okay.
And so that's what happened to me. The supervisor then directed this agent to come back to me and gave me a legal pad and said, "Why don't you write down what it is that you think is privileged, and we won't look at that information." And again, I told him, how can I go through 10 years of stuff and more, since I've been an attorney for 14 or 13 years?
Yes.
What are you talking about? That's crazy. It's ridiculous. I'm not going to do it. No. The answer is no. Again, leaves the room, goes and back, talks to the supervisor. I don't think this agent ever been, dealt with somebody like myself who would, refuse their commands, because I was pushing back. And I was really, I was keeping the pace of the conversation at my tone, at what I wanted the pace to be, which was a power move and something that most people don't do, but should do when dealing with agents. Don't be, intimidated by that, because it changes the dynamic of the conversation. But at that point, he comes back and says, "Look, why don't you just show me your contact list? If you show me your contact list, we'll give the phone back." So I acquiesced. And in hindsight now, I probably could have kept pushing some more even, because I don't necessarily think that they would have taken the phone. Maybe not. I don't know, but they could, and they had the ability to do so. And I didn't want them to take my device because I need it.
Yeah.
And I know that they're legally allowed to take it, but I also knew that I wasn't legally required to open or unlock my phone or give them my password.
That's correct.
So then I would have been without a device for days, weeks, or months, or whoever. I don't know. And once they had my device, who knows what they were going to do with that information. When I acquiesced to the contact list, they took it away from me for a short while. Whether they dumped it or scrolled through it or what, I don't know, because the phone was outside of my purview or vantage point for a few minutes.
So exactly what happened? They said, "We want to see your contact list." You acquiesced. Then what happened?
They told me to write it down, that I'm giving them written authority to look at my contact list. So I said, no problem. I wrote down, "You only have consent to look at my contact list, nothing more. And my contact list is not a privileged communication." And I signed it. So I did that to be very clear as to the consent of the search that I was giving them.
Sure.
And the parameters and four corners of the consent that I was giving them, which was only my list of contacts. They come back and they had specific questions about 5 or 6 individuals that I have in my contact list.
Do
And they
you
came back
remember?
really
Do you
quick,
have any? Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. Is like, how long were they with your phone?
6, 7 minutes. So because they came back so quick, I don't think that they dumped the phone. I don't think so, but I don't know. And because they had this list of names so quick, I believe that these were names that they wanted to ask me about off rip anyways, because it was not a long period of time when they came back and asked me about these names. And I knew who the names were, obviously. And I knew in my head probably why they were asking me about these individuals, but I wasn't going to share that with them. And so I told them anybody that's in my phone is a friend, family member, or client, and that's all you're getting out of me. That's it. And at that point, he returned my device to me, and he said, "Okay, fine, thank you. This, we're going to let you go." And it's almost 2 hours later. My wife and kids were home by that point. They left me. I had to get a ride from my dad, which was okay. I was okay with that. The airport had cleared out. The immigration and customs line was nothing. Everybody was done. Everybody had grabbed their suitcases and luggage already, and the gate for the terminal was down. They had to lift the gate up to let me out. I mean, that's how long it took for this conversation to happen. I felt that this was a clear attack on my profession.
Yes.
I felt that this was done with the intent to dissuade me from taking on what they called high-profile litigation in the protester cases in Ann Arbor. To me, it was an attack on lawyers. And because they led this conversation with, "We know that you're an attorney, and we know that you're taking on some high-profile cases right now," that to me was right off rip to intimidate me and to try to dissuade me. Why else did they say it?
Right. My response would be like, then leave me the hell alone.
Yeah.
You already know I'm a lawyer. Yeah.
It to me, and when I'm thinking about what's been happening as of late, and it's really wild. This is the craziest thing I've ever experienced as an attorney in this last few months.
Yeah.
More than the Muslim ban, because the Muslim ban was crazy, and we were in the airports when the Muslim ban was passed, and they were removing people or not allowing entry of folks in the airports.
Yeah.
And I was one of those volunteer lawyers that went to Detroit Metro Airport, was helping people come in, and I'm not an immigration lawyer. But this is worse. This is the politicalization, this is criminalization of free speech. This is dissuading individuals from speaking out on the issues that mean the most to them. And if you speak on Palestine, if you speak on the war in Gaza, if you talk about anything that is anti-Zionist, you're going to be removed. And they're using what I believe is anti-Semitism and equating that with anti-Zionism. And they're totally different things. Anti-Semitism is wrong. It shouldn't happen. Arabs are Semites, and I don't believe in that. I don't stand for it. Being an anti-Zionist is a political position to take, and you have that right. You don't have to be pro-Zionist. You don't have to agree with the Zionist movement, and you can speak out against the Zionist movement in America, or we think. And at this point, I don't think that we're allowed to anymore. Especially if you're a non-citizen, if you're a student here on a student visa. I've been hearing about medical students who are being removed, and 24 students this week in Ann Arbor at University of Michigan. 24 students and professors or staff members were removed for nothing.
No, it's blatantly obvious that they're telling these students, we know that you're not a criminal, but we have gotten instructions from higher ups that they don't want you here. And unfortunately, just now I saw a message come through my WhatsApp channel that says a federal judge has said that the deportation of Mahmoud Khalil can take place. Just
Had
now.
to take place? That just happened now?
Yes.
I was anticipating that. See, the problem in the immigration court is that the government controls the immigration court. Yeah. Those judges are appointed, but I think they're appointed with specific terms. They're not lifetime appointments. And they control the dynamics. See, what they used probably in that situation was Marco Rubio's 2-page report that he wrote out, indicating that he could be deported based off of the content of his speech. What basically he was saying, he was a rebel rouser. And I don't know. Is there an habeas corpus claim I think they're doing as well with that? It needs to be reviewed by a judge.
It seems like it, yes. It seems like it, but we'll see. The news that just broke, I haven't even had a chance to read the article.
Well, the Supreme Court ruled that when they deported the person from El Salvador,
Yes.
that they need to return that person.
Yeah.
Which I don't know how they're gonna do.
Yeah. How logistically are you going to be able to do that?
So I don't know. But the Supreme Court was, and that shows a little bit of where the mindset of the Supreme Court is on these issues, I think. Because one of the government's arguments in that case was that they can remove citizens even, which was wild. But the Supreme Court indicated that no, there is due process at the border still. You cannot just remove, folks and then try to hurry up and do it and then come back and say, sorry, we made a mistake, because that's what they said here. That was a good ruling, but not a full ruling where it said go get them and bring them back. They punted it down to the lower court to figure out the logistics of that. But the Mahmoud Khalid situation is horrible.
Yeah, I agree. So knowing what you went through now, Amir, do you have any particular advice for attorneys that are going on international trips, coming back, potentially stopped? Would you recommend that they use a different phone when they're traveling, or any advice that you may have for them just to kind of mitigate what you've gone through?
I recommend using a different phone. Absolutely. There's only there's only a few scenarios where, well, one, as an American citizen, they can't deny you entry from the United States. That's clear. As a permanent resident, a green card holder, it's not as clear, because if you overstay on your visa, perhaps if you stayed outside of the United States for more than 6 months, they may be able to not admit you back into the United States, but there's different rules on that. On a visitor visa or a student visa, they can deny entry. So that's the distinction between those three statuses. But when it comes to taking your device, they equate it with looking into your luggage. They say that everybody can be searched at the border, and include.
You just muted yourself.
Sorry.
There you go.
The device is just as fair game as looking into your suitcase to see if you're traveling with drugs or contraband or something along those lines. That's why they believe they have the right to do these types of searches at the border to stop. There was a tweet put out by ICE recently, and it was then removed, where they put out a tweet that said, persons, property, or ideas. They had a tweet about ideas at the border. And then it was deleted, but it existed. It's there. It's on the books. You can find it, but it's out there.
Okay.
So that's something that we need to be concerned about. Where is free speech still? Does it still exist? I don't know.
It doesn't look like it, but I guess there's still stuff that can be done. I mean, I'll tell you a story. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this story. We had an incident here in the Atlanta area where a guy in a Cybertruck, Perry Green is his name. He's actually the ex-husband of Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is a congresswoman. Actually, she's from my neck of the woods up in Dalton, Georgia, Northwest Georgia. So anyway, he's in this parking lot in this Cybertruck, and he sees 3 Muslim women in the hijab, one of which was praying. It was on Eid day, so not too long ago, right? Wow. On Sunday, on Eid day, that she was praying. And he says, you need to go back to your country. You follow a satanic religion, and just starts yelling these obscenities, right? Wow. And subhanAllah, what happened was Ali, my brother, said, hey, I'll represent you guys, because this is, we're going to pursue it. We're going to leverage what we know how to leverage, which is our social media, and we're going to blast this thing. Yeah. And intentional infliction of emotional distress, regardless of how difficult it is to meet that threshold, that's going to be our cause of action.
Is there a cause of action for a hate crime in Georgia?
So
or ethnic intimidation?
Yeah. So there is, but no prosecution was even picked up, even though this video went viral.
Well, what about through a civil lawsuit for ethnic intimidation? Is there an equation of that? Is there a cause of action to that?
I'm not sure. But he went ahead and represented these ladies, and remarkable series of events took place. So Sunday, this incident was videotaped. Tuesday, by that time it went viral. Wednesday, he represented these 3 girls. Thursday, the guy caught wind of it, reached out to Ali and said, "Hey man, could we talk?
Yeah.
Can we have a conversation?"
Right.
And Ali's like,
And Ali,
"Sure.
I'm sure, accepted that.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Sure. What do you have in mind?" And the guy was like, "Hey man, I just want to apologize to the family and the girls, and whatever you need me to do, I'll come to their mosque." And he's like, "Oh, you want to come to the mosque?" And he said, "Yes." So Ali calls me up and he says, "Hey, this guy wants to come over. What do you think?" I'm like, "Let him come. Let him attend a sermon." You
Yeah.
know? So that's what happens. The guy comes in, he comes in early. He apologizes to these 3 girls. For about 20 minutes, the girls were very appreciative, and he attends the sermon. I'm sitting right next to him. He does a public apology, in the press conference, and that was last week. Today, they agreed to a final settlement that includes a monetary component, which is a donation to the girls' masjid.
Very
Okay,
good.
and which goes to show that there is still ways of holding people accountable, right, for their speech if it involves something so uncivilized as what was said.
For sure. And I think that's the more appropriate method, for dealing with hateful speech. That's a great example on how we can deal with hateful speech in our society right now, because the way social media has polarized the country, and the algorithm of social media and even Google search engine, it starts showing you what you like to look at.
Yeah.
And it becomes deeper and deeper and deeper polarization, which is dangerous because you're only looking at one side and never the other side. I sometimes end up on Jewish TikTok, and I'm like, how did I get here? I watch it. I like it. Sometimes I like some of their content. Some of their stuff they post are nice, and I enjoy it. It's strange. It's rare when it comes through your algorithm, and you're like, how did this happen?
No, here's the reality, which many people probably find surprising, which there are a lot of Jewish anti-Zionists.
Oh,
right?
ton.
I mean,
for sure.
you have Norman Finkelstein, you have Gabor Mate, you have Ilan Pape, you have all these individuals, and people don't know it. And then here's the thing that people don't really get.
I want to share with you, and I don't know, and this is an attorney from Georgia.
Okay.
He emailed me yesterday,
Okay.
and his name is whatever. I don't want to share his name, but he's an attorney from Georgia, and he says a message of support from a Zionist.
Yes.
And this is a gentleman who felt that it was important, despite us having not sharing our political views. He said, we share a deep commitment to civil rights and human dignity, and what happened to you was invasive, unjustified, and a broader pattern of using the border as a space for unchecked surveillance and intimidation. So this guy was in support, even though he said we may be diametrically opposed on many issues, but not civil rights. So, I mean, you even a Zionist can support a civil rights issue and be sympathetic to what I'm dealing with. I thought that was, interesting to get a note like that. But I got notes and emails from dozens and dozens and dozens of lawyers from Michigan and beyond about my situation in support, and many of them Jewish lawyers, many of them. And so I do think that there is a way to bridge a gap between our communities. And there's a prime example, especially in America, because we have figured out how to live as as a group, other mixed melting pot, other backgrounds, faiths, and so it's a good thing and should be used as an example, hopefully one day in Palestine. I don't know.
That's where I think I draw a distinction. With respect to Zionists coming in support of civil rights here in America, I think that's, any normal person would do that. But what I've found is like politicians are progressive on everything except Palestine.
For sure.
Right? And so
we've said that time and time again. The Attorney General in Michigan is probably the most progressive Attorney General that Michigan has ever elected ever. Her name is Dana Nessel.
Yeah.
But she is progressive on everything except Palestine. She filed recently.
Yeah.
Well, one, she's the prosecuting attorney on the protester cases for all of them. No local prosecutors, city prosecutors were charging these cases. So the Attorney General's office took it upon herself to charge these cases. So the local county prosecutors passed. 2, she recently recused herself from an investigation involving Arab and Muslim elected officials in the city of Hamtramck. And she said that because she opposed the ban on raising pride flags in the city of Hamtramck, and because she is the prosecuting attorney in the Ann Arbor protester cases, that she doesn't want to appear that she's biased towards Arab and Muslims, and is asking the courts to recuse her office as the prosecuting attorney on these cases. There's a claim of some sort of voter fraud in the city of Hamtramck within the city council members. I don't know how much merit that has, but this attorney general has said she can't be impartial and she should recuse herself. Today, we have filed a motion to have her recuse herself from the protester cases in Ann Arbor because she's the one who brought out that said she cannot be impartial in Hamtramck.
Right.
And so if it's not good over there, it shouldn't be good over here. And so we have a hearing scheduled and on the 24th. April 24th, we'll have a hearing on that issue. And we'll see. Because she has been very vocal about protesting at Palestinian rallies. She spoke out against Rashida Tlaib speaking or protesting from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. She was very public and said that that was anti-Semitic speech for Congresswoman Tlaib to say that. So she has been clear on her position on Palestinian protesters.
Well, I look at all of this targeting and the recent targeting that you have had as a badge of honor. That means that you have reached a level that your voice is powerful enough to be targeted. I recently had, I opened up my mail, I saw a letter from the State Bar of Georgia where I got a complaint against me, not from a client, but from another attorney who says that I am an avowed anti-Semite and that because of that, I should be disbarred, right? So I created a video about that. We'll be producing it and publicizing it pretty soon. But I look at it and I say, hey, if you're not being targeted, you're not working hard enough. Period.
For sure.
So it's a badge of honor. I'm really happy that we're finally making waves, even though maybe they're ripples right now, but they will be waves, inshallah.
I think so, and I agree with the point that you make that we should speak out. There's always a kind of reflex or instinctive reaction to fly under the radar.
Absolutely.
So that you don't get the heat and you don't put too much pressure on yourself. And sometimes that's the right thing to do. Like right now, I wouldn't suggest that students who are non-citizens, especially, the some that are in grad school, they got to be very careful because the consequences are very severe. And your whole life is at risk there. And I don't want anybody to risk their life if they don't have to. But the ones that are most vocal, I think, do get the most support. And I think you and I can agree on that point. And you brought that up to me the other day, and it really stuck with me. It resonated with me a lot.
No, here's the reality. There is that false sense of security that if we are not visible, we'll fly beneath the radar. But it's the opposite that's true. The more visible, the more vocal you are, the more protection you're likely to get. I mean, look at the case of Mahmoud Khalil. Because we have video of him, photos of him being, center stage at these rallies, he's getting the support. Imagine how many hundreds of people, if not thousands of people, are in those jail cells with nobody knowing anything about them. It's horrific.
Right. And that's what makes the case of Mahmoud Khalil so scary, because the court ruled against him today, and he's got all the support in the world.
But that's okay. That's
okay,
because we are, listen, your parents probably very much like my parents, that, my mom comes to me and says, dir balak ala halak. Please be careful. I mean, you don't have to be so vocal, so visible. You don't have to be that outspoken. And I tell my mom, listen, mama, if I don't sacrifice, then my children will. And so I'd rather it be me,
Sure.
The sacrifice is going to have to take place. It's either our generation or the next. And so I would rather go through it myself, knowing what I know, and inshallah, Allah give us the ability to withstand any pain that is to come. But the reality is, it's gonna require sacrifice. The African American community sacrificed. They all sacrificed. So it's not gonna happen. It's not gonna be given to us on a platter, bro. It's gonna require sacrifice. So let's go.
Yeah, I think you're right. The civil rights movement of the '60s is now here back, but with a different issue. But it's the same fight. It's the same fight. And my partner and I talk about that stuff all the time. The Dearborn community voted primarily for Trump. And I understand why, but I regret the community doing that and having such a short-term memory loss, because this is a very dangerous administration in the type of conduct and activity that they have when it comes to immigrant rights and speech, on Palestine.
Well, I was a advocate for Jill Stein, a Green Party supporter, and I got that criticism. The criticism was, Jill Stein's not going to win, so you're pretty much dumping your vote. You're wasting your vote. If you're voting for anybody other than the two, then it's a wasted vote. And my position was, look, number one, I can't vote for genocide. Okay,
Right.
I just can't do that. And I'm going to vote for who I want, not in fear of who I don't want. And number two, this is something that I still feel is true to this day, even with notwithstanding all of the things that are going on right now that's happened to you, that's happened to a lot of our brothers and sisters. So Biden and Harris, they had a decorum about them that would look at the genocide and say, this concerns us. We're concerned about this, right? Now, Trump is just a brute genocidaire, right? But, there's a feeling of even more betrayal when we have this decorum and eloquent and flowery language coming from the Democrats that we're concerned about this. We'll see what we can do. I would rather, honestly, being shown to my face who you are than being met with the flowery language that I'm seeing from the Democrats.
I agree with that position.
And
I do.
Now this is not just an ego-driven kind of thought. Let me tell you why I think realistically it's better to have Trump, even though I hate Trump, right? I hate Trump. Let's not ignore that. But I think more change is likely to happen. More real change is likely to happen with all of us pissed off instead of one segment of the community pissed off.
For sure.
So that's kind of how I look at it, because now I think we would have become a bit complacent under Kamala, right? It's like, well, she's saying all the right things, but the genocide is still ongoing. She said she was concerned, right? She's for a ceasefire, and it's like, the words don't even want to come out of her mouth, but she's working it. She was working tirelessly for a ceasefire. Give me a break, So I think
there was no, but Trump did say that he wanted to stop the war.
True.
And for a while, it looked like that was going to be true, but at this point, I don't think that's going to happen.
So look, he's a capitalist, right? Yeah. Like he's all about the money. I don't think that they're going to not drill the natural gas on the shores of Gaza, bro. That's money. You're talking about
even in South Lebanon, it's there.
Yeah.
So that's the same issue, because they want the gas. So for sure, or a pipeline that goes through.
Yeah, so they want the land, the gas, the natural resources. This is a settler colonialist state that is contingent. I argue that the state of Israel is predicated on genocide. That's what it is. Every settler colonial
Isn't the United States the same though? What we did to the Native American,
100%.
It's 100%. It's identical.
It's 100%. And it's just the reality is the Native Americans just didn't have iPhones to record
it, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what we did to the Native Americans. But we're just now living it. I used to, not to go off on a different tangent, but I used to think to myself, man, if I was alive during 1948, there was no way that would happen. I used to think that.
Yeah.
But what's happening right now is worse.
Yeah.
So Allah al-Musta'an, may God help us, withstand what is going on and allow our voices to be heard and hopefully, trigger some change. But this is really a dangerous time, as you mentioned, not only for clients, but for attorneys, for students, for everyone.
Journalists, doctors, anybody who's concerned about, their information. The government data that they're collecting, let me just. I've looked into this topic so much this last week, and you know what I found? These warrantless searches that are happening at the border have led to minimal convictions of crimes. So they're violating our rights at the border, but it's not fruitful in terms of criminal convictions. So it's just a blatant violation of our rights, and they don't care. And I don't know if it's done for intimidation tactics or just for intelligence purposes. And I think it's probably both, to be quite honest. But the amount of people that are being stopped that are coming in from the Middle East, especially people that come in from Lebanon, it happens every plane that comes in. They're stopping folks and asking them to take their phones. They just want to expand the intelligence network that they have and expand the contact list that they're creating. They want to know. That's all it is.
So no more phones, or at least the personal devices when traveling overseas.
Abroad. No, you got to take a phone that doesn't have all your data. If you're really concerned about them taking it, you got to have a phone and then at that point, let them take it. You don't unlock it. Let them take that device and figure out if they can get something out of that. You don't. Why make it easy for them? Because at that point, we could start litigating some of these issues. The only way that I can sue the government right now is if or challenge this search of my device would be if some sort of criminal prosecution arose out of this search, and I would challenge the legality of how they got the evidence. And so that would give me standing to go back and fight what happened to me. Because a straight federal lawsuit or a lawsuit for wrongful detention will be met with government immunity. They'll be responded with, no, we have the right to do secondary screens. We can ask in the interest of national security questions about where you're coming from and who you're associating with, and we can take your phone. So I don't want to get into litigation with the government on this, but if something did happen as a result of what they found in my device, then I could probably challenge that and maybe create some better precedent. Who knows? But I think the government is picking and choosing what to test in the court system. And right now we're having a stress test on all the rights, especially in the immigration sector. And the way that they're challenging law firms and lawyers and immigration lawyers even, there's been a memorandum out there that says if you're an attorney and you're taking on frivolous asylum claims, that you should be sanctioned and perhaps even disbarred. And that came from the administration. Wow. They want immigration lawyers who are filing asylum claims, and what they say is frivolous litigation against the United States. They should be sanctioned and disbarred. And so there's another intimidation thing on lawyers that's coming from the White House. We saw an executive order from the White House that attacked Washington, D.C. law firms. And those law firms gave up. I probably stood up taller for my rights than these 1,000+ lawyer law firms. And I don't know why they back down so quickly, but some are fighting and litigating and pushing back. But there is a clear attack on the legal profession from this administration.
Yeah. Well, alhamdulillah, you're home and you're back with your family. And,
right, back to work.
And back to work. And I know we talked a little bit. You got your podcast room coming together?
Yes, we're getting there. I'd like to create more content and be able to share my experience. And not just really, about me, but it's about, this experience that we're all dealing with and shed light on it. Just, I want to give credit to you and your brother, man. You guys are, you're paving the way for Muslim and Arab lawyers to reach the masses. And there are many of you guys, but, I want to give credit to what you guys are doing. I really appreciate it.
Alhamdulillah, man. You know what they say, the sun is the best disinfectant. So, you got to shine a light on these things. So I'm glad that.
Up in Michigan, we don't get a lot of sunlight, man. So we gotta keep.
You gotta come down to Atlanta sometime.
Oh, man.
Allah khalik. Thank you very much. This was very enlightening. Very good. Inshallah, we can do it again. Alhamdulillah, I'm glad that you're back with your family safe and sound. But I'm sure that a lot of lawyers will be interested in listening to this and watching this, and definitely listen to this tip to leave their phones, stateside, so that there's not a risk of losing it when they come back.
Thank you.
Habibi, take care. Ma salami.